Hi, everybody. Welcome to, April 23rd. April 23rd is Tuesday community call at MakerDAO. Geez, I whiffed that. But welcome. We do these calls every Tuesday, and the call historically has been kind of a recap of what's been going on in the last week of MakerDAO. So we go over a bunch of stuff like real-life events, technical milestones, things that have happened in the system, like, for example, the recent executive vote that happened this week. We go through highlights from the community, and then also we open it up for questions from the community for the community, and I actually, as a part of the later discussion in this call, I want to ask you guys, the people that actually attend this call, what you guys would like to see in this call, because I want to make it more engaging for you. I don't really like it to be too monotone and just me presenting for half an hour to 45 minutes. It tends to, I think, exhaust people and myself. So I'd love to hear from you guys what you'd like to see in these calls. But before I get going, I realized that I'm actually missing one thing from the agenda, which I am no longer missing. There it is. Okay, cool. So let me see who's in here, because I know Lenka has just finished up at ETH Cape Town. And I'm sure, yeah, I think, all right, so she's probably going to be here next week because she might be traveling today. Also from MakerDAO, I see Nick Krunkle is here. He's one of our core devs. Awesome dude. All right, cool. So let's kick it off. I'll recap the events very briefly. So we have a bunch going on this week. In Europe, we have Block Split, which is I think it's a tech conference. It's happening on the 26th in Croatia, and our business development guy Gustav is going to be over there. Gustav is an awesome dude. And he does all the BD in Europe, so he's going to be over there. There's also going to be not in Croatia, but another event, IQ times MakerDAO fundraiser. So this is going to be a fundraiser for a DAO that funds medical research for, what is it here? I actually had the notes here. Yeah, so it's an open peer-to-peer digital network where contributors can have as little or as much skin in the game as they like. It will develop and own the research addressing the prevention of neurodegeneration. And so they actually already have like a scientific sort of breakthrough to seed the DAO. This is all super complex to me. I have no idea how this works, but it's an interesting. It's interesting. So I assume that they are doing their base funding and all of that in Dai, since they are doing it with us through partnering with MakerDAO and whatnot. Yeah, so they're partnered with like UPenn, Duke University, Alzheimer's Association, NIH. Wow, they're actually partnered with quite a lot of interesting orgs. But we're doing an event with them on the 29th in Berlin, and I believe Lenk is going to be over there. We also have an event in Norway on April 29th called Learn and Build with Oslo Blockchain Day. It's going to be very developer-focused and workshop-based, so check that out if you're in Norway. We're doing on the 30th of April in Denmark. We're participating in FinTech and RegTech innovation in Africa. And then also on the 30th in Norway, we're participating in Oslo Blockchain Day 2019, the DemTech edition. I don't have too much info in depth about all of these, but I linked all of them in the agenda, which I'll post for you guys again for those of you that joined a little bit late. Yeah, and then in South America, we have a couple of events. On the 26th in Buenos Aires, we have Mariana Conti participating in the La Plata blockchain meetup. And then on the 30th in Argentina, we are participating in the Argentina FinTech Forum. So look out for that. And then also in Korea, we have Do presenting, I think it's at an event called DLT 101, Distributed Ledger Technology 101, and he's going to be speaking. He's actually going to be hosting it. Oh, cool. Yeah, so he's going to be there from the 23rd to the 28th. It's I guess it's a 5-day event. Wow. Korea goes hard. Awesome. Yeah, so that's it for just the events that are happening this week. There's a lot to look forward to in the month of May. particularly, for me since I'm biased and I live in New York. But New York Blockchain Week is coming up, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Excited to give you guys some updates from there. But that's it for events, and I'm going to move forward to some of the technical milestones, partnerships, that kind of stuff. So if you guys are regular browsers of Reddit, you may have seen the thread on Wisp, which is a free payroll tool for ETH and Dai. And it actually looks pretty sleek. I'm actually trying to get in contact with them to see if they want to do a demo here on the call for us. So look out for that. That they might come on as guests in the next week or two, hopefully.
We did an interview with Chris Ellie on POV Crypto. If anyone wants to check that out.
Oh, really?
Nice.
He's
the guy that created the whole thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you link that?
Yeah, sure. 1 second.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Nice. Yeah, so I'm gonna work on getting him on here to see if he could do a bit of a demo for us, similar to how we had the guys from Gilded do a demo a couple months ago. All right. So besides that, that's the only real partnerships. I think that they self-integrated. I'm not 100% sure that we have like an official partnership, but it's really cool that payroll tools, free payroll tools, are using Dai. If you're an employer in some other country and you want to get people to get on a digital platform and use cryptocurrency, particularly a stablecoin called Dai, yeah, you could use Wisp, and that's really cool. All right, cool. So that's it for partnerships this week. It's kind of quiet. In other news, we have an executive vote that passed on Friday. It actually passed surprisingly quickly, but the stability fee was raised from 11.5% to 14.5% for a 3% raise. And yesterday, we had a governance poll put up to gauge the Maker token holders' feelings about the next raise. And so far, we have a 2% in the lead, which is interesting. It signals that Maker holders feel that the rapidness and the cadence of the fees has to slow down a bit. And I think it might be due to, I guess, community sentiment, and as well as probably just trying to see if there's a lag effect in these very rapid increases. So it might take a bit of time for CDP users to digest the change and actually make decisions and pay down their CDPs. I mean, it takes time to transfer money and et cetera, et cetera. So that's something that happened. And then also, just as a side note, Nuo, which is a borrowing and lending platform, recently got audited by QuantStamp. So that's just a bit of ecosystem news. I thought that was cool. I think I'm going to point out anytime a project gets audited on here that's relevant to DeFi, just because I think audits are really important in the space, and minimizing that sort of technological risk for users is really, really important when it comes to cryptocurrencies and dApps, right? Yeah, David, thank you for posting that. I'm going to check that out myself a little bit later. So that's pretty much it for some of the technical, some of the more official stuff. Some highlights from the community. We have the Maker roll call results, which, if you didn't know, originally it was supposed to be its own separate proposal. But then if you're participating in last week's governance poll, I believe all MKR got counted in that. But interestingly enough, it seems that 235,000 Maker was counted. So I think that what Nikolai did was he might have taken all of the MKR that was in the chief in the voting contract in general, but I'm not 100% sure. But either way, there's a bit of a write-up breaking down the 190 unique voting addresses that are there and the distribution of MKR in between all of them. And interestingly enough, it turns out that there are 2 voters with over 50K, 7 voters with over 10K, 14 voters over 2.5K, 25 voters with over 1,000, 49 with over 100, 92 with over 10. So it's kind of a distribution. It doesn't surprise me, but really cool numbers to actually see broken down for you. And also, I kind of wanted to ask the question. So if anybody here on the call is a Maker holder who doesn't vote, I wanted to kind of ask why. So if anybody here has any answer to that, I'd love to hear it.
I don't like seeing it out of my ecosystem wallet.
You don't like it? You don't like seeing it out of your Etherscan wallet?
Yeah, when I see the tokens on my Etherscan, all the ERC20 tokens, and like the US dollar value is not there, I'm like, oh, sad face.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting.
And it's
Hmm.
just like it's just extra like risk vectors, right? Like it's just the whole two wallet system. Like I actually don't know why that exists. Like I can guess, but I've actually not researched as to why that actually has to be the way that it is.
I don't
And
think it has to be that way. I think they did it that way just so people can have the most security voting with their MKR that's presumably sitting in their cold wallet, with a hot wallet that they have. So it just gives them an ability to kind of keep their MKR in their cold wallet, never touch their cold wallet after setting up the proxy, and then just using the hot wallet to do all future votes. But I believe that the team is working on putting out like sort of direct access voting to both hot wallets and cold wallets. Nick might be able to speak to that actually.
Yeah, so everything that David said is true. I just want to add one clarifying point, and that the hot wallet cannot actually take any of the MKR. The only power that the hot wallet has is to either A, vote, or B, to withdraw the funds back to the cold wallet. It can't take out the MKR to itself or send it anywhere else. And so a lot of people felt more comfortable voting with a set of keys that was restricted in that kind of context.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Was the voting proxy part of like the audits that happened? Was it audited?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not the best person to ask about that.
I got you. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Cool. Yeah, but that's interesting. Not being able to see it in your Etherscan wallet, that value, right? I also noticed that, but but it's okay. I'm an ideologue. I love voting for the sake of voting, even though I'm just a tiny little fish. But
ideally, I
all
would
right.
just kind of like to want to be able to sign a message that said
Yeah,
like,
right.
yes, contribute this MKR to this vote.
Yeah, I think there was I read an article about the sort of the holes with just signing messages voting systems. I think that they could like be gamed or something like that in some way. I'm super unclear on the details now though, but do you know anything about that, David?
Me? No, not at all.
Yeah. All right, cool. Cool. All right, so moving forward. So also highlight from the community, we saw the guys at Dharma post a refi with DeFi guide, which is a guide to refinancing your CDP. And it's interesting now because in the governance space, we've seen a bunch of people trying to come up with like a Libor like rate called DPOR. And the idea is that all right, so like if our stability fee is higher than another platform's borrowing rate, why don't people refinance? Or like should be people be theoretically people should be closing their CDPs, moving their debt to these cheaper instruments. But there's kind of nuances, right? Like something I noticed, like with Dharma, like there's fundamental differences. It's a fixed term loan, so there's like 90-day loans, and I think they also have 28-day term loans. But right now it's the 90-day loans. So there's a fixed term, and with that fixed term, the only thing you could really do is top it up. You can't actually withdraw your collateral after you top it off, and at the same time, you can't borrow more from the same fixed term loan. So I guess there's trade-offs with any like I guess financial instrument or like loan arrangement, and I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on refinancing and like obstacles that people have with doing that, and yeah.
That's actually I brought up these exact points to Brendan from Dharma. And I was like, hey, like, can you cash out soon? And the answer was no. And like, can you withdraw more Dai if you're under collateralized? And the answer was no. And so like I
Yeah.
told him that like I'll these are the reasons why I'll be keeping my CDP and not migrating over to Dharma, just because with Maker you own your own debt, right, rather than somebody else owning your debt. And that to me that is the vision of decentralized open finance, is that you kind of control your bank account in the way that you don't with a traditional banking system. But he said that all those features are in the works, right? So coming much more closer to mimicking the actual user experience of a CDP. And so that is a lot more compelling.
Yeah, definitely. I think the fact that Dharma has a fundamental need for a counterparty is probably like the limiting factor, because if you're going to be able to like borrow more, like you're going to have a lot more, I guess, liquidity of like loan offers and borrow, all those offers. I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to see how they fix those kinds of issues.
Yeah, it goes right back to the placeholder article about comparing peer to contract versus peer to peer platforms, where
Yeah.
MakerDAO and Uniswap is a peer to contract, and Dharma and some others are peer to peer. And peer to peer is just consistently showing to be much more inefficient in compared to just a peer to contract.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's super interesting. I guess it's because like of a standardization of liquidity, right? Like with like MakerDAO CDPs, you could borrow as much Dai as you want so long as you have the collateral, right? And then with like Uniswap, you could buy as much as you want. Like the what's it called? The constant market maker like formula that they use. It kind of ensures that you have a smooth level of liquidity across like both the bid and ask. So it's interesting, man. It's interesting. Yeah, that's a really great point. I also like one thing that I was thinking about that kind of gives people an obstacle to refinancing is also the need for float, right? So like in order to move your CDP debt, you actually need to close your CDP, right? And then move that collateral elsewhere and then borrow again. But how do you do that? Either like you either have to borrow from somewhere temporarily using some other collateral, right? Or you need to have that float, or you need to sell your assets to get that float. So, and that's like a tax event, right? So there's like also that nuance, right? Refinancing isn't like the click of a button, Yeah. All right. Cool. Cool. So yeah, Dharma did that. Came out with a little refinancing guide, how to move your CDP over to Dharma. Instadap V2 arrives. So Instadap came out with a revamped website this week that also integrated Uniswap and Kyber right there in the dashboard. So Instadap is really, really cool. They're absolutely killing it. I'm a big fan of theirs. Their whole vision is to get all of DeFi onto one platform, so you can manage your CDP, you can, trade on Uniswap and Kyber, you could lend on Compound, you could borrow on Dharma, you could do, ideally in the future, you could do pretty much anything that is a good DeFi product on their app. So real cool that they came out with a little V2 revamp version this week. I already spoke about the end Alzheimer's with IQ and MakerDAO. That's just referencing the event that's happening this week in Berlin, right? Yeah, in Berlin. Let's see what else. Yeah, so Token Analyst. I stumbled across a page from tokenanalyst.io on stablecoins, and it actually is really interesting because it shows that Dai has the highest TX count compared to USDC, PAX, TUSD, and GUSD. It also has like I think the lowest amount of coins. Well, the second lowest amount of coins in circulation. Like GUSD is the lowest one with 62 million. And then it's us at 89. I guess right now like 88. And then the third one is like 110. But and also we have I think the second most holders. So there's 20,599 holders compared with USDC's 20,992. And obviously, like all these metrics are kind of like you got to take them sort of with a grain of salt because people can have multiple wallet addresses. Transactions can happen on a contractual level, like, and there could be a lot of spam transactions. Like you never really know what's going on behind these numbers, but they give you a decent amount of like insight. So I thought it was a really cool comparison. They kind of put all the different stablecoins together.
I'd actually like to pose a question to everyone here. Has anyone used a stablecoin that's not Dai? Because I haven't.
Yeah, I personally haven't.
Damsey once sent me some USDC to pay for dinner because he's a dick.
What'd you do with it?
I gave it right back to him next time we had dinner.
That's pretty funny. And for those of you that don't know, Vamsi is one of the guys that works at Maker. What is it? Nick? What is Vamsi's like official role? What does he do? He's not backend services, right?
He does all the integrations. So
Yeah,
he
right.
meets with partners about kind of Dai integrations and talks to them how technically, like, walks them through how that would work.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think he also helped put together a couple of the integration guides. I remember he was telling me. Yeah, nice. Yeah, so I don't know, David. I personally don't use any other stable coins. That's like one step down from like blasphemy. All
I
right.
was thinking the same thing. The B word.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So all right. In terms of developer creations this week, I saw something really interesting. Although I can't remember where I saw it, I just managed to save the link to the GitHub repo. But Blockboard came out with a like test software for this thing called Artis. And Artis is their solution for executing decentralized margin trading on dexes. And it's integrated with MakerDAO, Uniswap, and soon Compound 2. And the software is not audited or anything, but it's really interesting because decentralized margin trading on DEXs is kind of like next level future step for like margin trading, right? I thought it was really cool. So check that out if you're a developer and are interested in such matters. Yeah, all right, cool. So a few different articles that came out this week. One was absolutely hilarious. It came out on what was it? Coin Jazeera, which is like the onion of crypto. The article's titled "Maker Increases Dai Stability Fee to 100%. Gamblers Still Won't Close Their CDPs." And if you read through the thing, it's absolutely freaking hilarious. Uh, to give you guys a little bit of an excerpt, to get people to close their CDPs, right? Amongst the options included are handwritten thank you notes, vouchers for reduced fees on future trades, and most notably, an all-you-can-eat buffet at Gold Gentleman's Club, the premier blockchain co-working space of San Francisco, where you can eat mozzarella sticks, get aroused and frustrated, and feel guilty about looking at women dancing who didn't get into crypto early. After refusing the mozzarella sticks, later on in the article, after refusing the mozzarella sticks, Pepe noticed that objects were starting to go missing on his desk. He thought nothing of it until he went to the bathroom and saw "close it" written on the mirror in blood. It's just such a great article. It gave me a good laugh. Definitely read it if you guys are into the Onion type articles.
That's also the edited version. They sent us a copy beforehand asking for our opinion, and it was even spicier before.
Oh jeez. Yeah, that gave me a good laugh.
Like the headline used to not be gamblers; it used to be morons.
Oh jeez. I mean, yeah, that's rough. That's rough. All right, cool. So another article that happened this week was one that was put out by I mean, it's published on CoinMonks, but it was put out by Neutral, by the Neutral Dollar, and it was called "The Most Useful Aspect of Dai." And they actually did a great job at going through like the summarizing sort of the bad side of Dai, like contextually, like right now with the peg issues and the stability fee and scalability stuff. But then they did also a great job at providing kind of the good and the better sort of trade-offs of Dai. And then they go into a bit about how it's like currently there's not a lot of really great use cases, but one really great overlooked use case is using it as a hedging tool in your portfolio if you're a trader. So definitely check that out. It's a great article. Really, really very readable, especially for people that are not very versed in like portfolio theory and stuff like that. Additionally, hold on a second. There you go. Sorry, phone number person. I had to mute you because I was getting a little bit of static. All right, cool. So the next article that came out this week was a MakerDAO overview by Pink Sky, and Pink Sky is a blockchain consulting firm. And they just did a general overview of MakerDAO, went through the basic like how the system works, and then some of the risk parameters and a bit of a synopsis on governance. Generally, a great overview. Check it out if you want an introduction to MakerDAO. Uh, there's a ton of introductions to MakerDAO nowadays. So check them out. If you go on, actually, this is a great place to plug it. But if you guys aren't aware of Awesome MakerDAO, definitely check it out. There's a ton of everything on there, including like overview beginner articles. So check it. All right, cool. Next, the last article that I highlighted for this week's community call was an article called MakerDAO voters decided on. Oh, sorry, divided on how much to hike fee for Dai stablecoin. And this was CoinDesk's article on basically the current stability fee situation, and it highlighted how on the last community call, uh, basically it was kind of there was a lot of sorry, on the last governance vote, there was a lot of indecision on exactly how much to hike the fee because we saw a fairly uh like evenly distributed vote on all the four options. I think it was like 25%, 30%, 17%. Like it was a very kind of even vote. So it just went to show that maker governance, choosing the stability fee right now is more of an art than really a science, because we know the general direction. Not we, they know the general direction, right? But to actually get an agreement on a particular number is pretty tough. And that's exactly what the governance poll is there for. And so the executive vote that came on Friday was basically the winner by a very small margin, 3%. So that was a really nice current overview of the stability fee situation. Nextly, we have a couple of good threads on our subreddits. So there was one thread that didn't get too many comments, but I thought it was interesting, so I figured I'd highlight it for you guys here. It's called Game Theory Around How CDP Holders May Respond to Stability Fee Changes. And it talks a bit about, like, tragedy of the commons, and then people thinking, okay, since the actual stability fee I pay over the course of a year is just the average, right? Uh, you know, why shouldn't I just wait for it to drop again? Maybe this high fee scenario is just going to last for a couple months, right? Uh, and then that, like, sort of deters people from potentially closing their CDPs due to the high fees. And it also highlights the fact that there's latency in the fee changes. A fee change today might might get somebody to wipe their die on their CDP, a month from now, if they see that it persists. So I think that the increasing the fees might have more of an effect over time. I think that's like the theory, right? Uh, so yeah, it had a couple of great ideas in there. So definitely check it out and comment. It's a good thread. Another thread worth highlighting was why doesn't Maker get a former Fed member on the team to help figure out monetary policy? Uh, and my favorite comment on that thread is actually the first one. Why doesn't Tesla get a former GM member on the team to help figure out how to run a car company? And it's kind of like satirical, but all the comments there were actually the reason why I highlighted thread was because of the comments. And there's a lot of pretty interesting comments in there, so check it out. There's a lot of, you know, I don't, there's a lot of people working on the stability fee thing. If you are interested in those conversations, I think you should definitely join the RMKR Gov subreddit, and also participate in our Thursday community calls. So if you don't know about that, we have a governance and risk meeting every Thursday at 12 p.m. EST, basically the same time as the community call. So it's every Thursday. Come on. There's a bunch of people in the community that participate in it. I think the average like participation in the call, or people that actually join the call, is between like 60 and 80 people pretty regularly. And we also have a few presentations every call from people in the community, guys like Vishesh, Baron Gotti, Matthew Rabinowitz. Like they go through a lot of the analytics and a lot of the way that maker governance is trying to approach the issue from a scientific governance standpoint. So definitely check that out. Uh, and lastly, the last thread that I highlighted was a thread called "More Accessible MakerDAO Datasets to Accelerate Analytical Productivity," and this was interesting because it kind of highlighted the nuance of data in all of this, right? So, maker governance needs data to make decisions, right? And being able to access that data reliably, and actually having data that's not either corrupted or misconstrued or this and that, like, and also having kind of a database of data over time. So like if you're looking for a data set that's like very large, that spans across a large plane of time, it's really hard to kind of get that from an API query. uh, but either way, it talks a bit about the nuances of data sets, and there's comments on that thread from the CEO of Santiment, and also like from a team member from Dune Analytics. That both of those comments were super insightful, and I personally learned a lot. And I don't know much about how people in risk management and the financial world handle data sets, but it's a really great thread if you want to educate it yourself a bit about that issue. All right. And then the last little subcategory I have on my agenda is governance. So Matthew Rabinowitz came out with another weekly narrative on MakerDAO. So if you haven't seen those, they're a really, really great sort of 4 or 5 paragraph synopsis of what's been going on in the land of MakerDAO governance. So check that out. Yeah, and then the executive vote, the stability fee. Wait, hold on. Yeah, that happened already. Yeah. So the executive vote, there was a raise of the stability fee by 3% to 14.5%. Yeah, but I covered that already. All right, cool. Uh, and so yeah, and I had a few questions for the community. We already talked a bit about refinancing your CDP. Hey, Richard Burton, welcome. Yeah, so I had a few questions for the community that we already covered. One of them, which is like obstacles for refinancing your CDP debt. But I also kind of wanted to gauge the sentiment of people in this call about how they personally responded to rate hikes and some of like your ideas. I know some of the more popular ideas are putting out a governance proposal uh, for lowering the debt ceiling. I know a lot of people are kind of upset at the rate hikes, but I kind of want to gauge people's thoughts in this community call. And there's a thing in chat from Jordan Crandall. David, I think it'd be super helpful to distribute all these notes in the style of Evan Van Nis's Week in Ethereum, like Week in MakerDAO. Sorry if you already do this. Yeah, that is a good idea. There used to be a thing called Making Maker that was coming out like I think every month, but it hasn't been super consistent. And I think yeah, I might do something with these because I literally have like this active agenda in another document spanning from like when I started doing this, when I took over this meeting from Rich. So I have a ton of these, and yeah, I'll talk to somebody in our team to see if we could figure out a streamlined way to do that. Yeah. All right. Cool. Oh, and Marcin earlier said that he used USDT. Damn, Marcin, that's messed up. I'm just joking. All right, cool. So yeah, so I wanted to ask you guys, how have you guys personally responded to the rate hikes? What are some of your thoughts? I'd love to hear them.
I got some angst from the site from the rate hikes just because what are we at 14.5% now is pretty
Yeah.
high and is going higher.
Yeah.
But then I realized that in a bull market, MKR denominated stability fee goes down. And so that gave me some peace of mind, but that is entirely speculation and no one should follow that advice.
Well, yeah. In MKR it's cheaper, but in DAI it's the same, right?
Yeah,
In
in
DAI
DAI
there's
it's the
no
same.
difference.
But if you already are holding MKR today, and if you believe that MKR will appreciate along with the rest of crypto, even if
Yeah.
it underappreciates, it's probably going to appreciate faster than the accrued stability fees.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was also thinking about the fact that leverage tends to get more expensive in bull markets because that's when everybody wants to participate in the bull market, right? And that's when everybody wants to get leverage. And since like one of the primary use cases of CDPs and DAI is really to get leverage, it makes sense that the stability fee is going up because the
Yeah,
cost of
totally.
leverage naturally, like the market really decides the cost of leverage, as seen in the weak peg. But yeah, that's a nice like little ease to the blow, right? I'm long maker, so hopefully my CDP will be worth it.
I think the rising stability fee is just the most organic indicator that we have of changing sentiment, right? Like, because like the stability fee changing is supposed to be the counterbalance that balances out risk taking. and leverage is risk taking, right? And if everyone's starting to
Absolutely.
get more bullish and going more leverage long, like that, it's just a super neutral, non-subjective indicator that everyone is starting to get more bullish. So I think because the
As a
crypto
market
especially,
signal, yeah.
yeah, and crypto markets follow this sinusoid bear bull cycle way faster than all other markets, and it's way more clear when it does so. And so, I think we saw Ether go from 1400 to 80, and Dai stay true to its peg the entire way down. And now that we're in that transition point from going from bear to, at the very least, not bear. I think it's these transition points that are really going to stress the Dai peg, and so this is kind of where we'll see like the most FUD about the maker system because of the rate of change, and we'll see the most stress along the peg itself. I just think it's super interesting. So we are like, I would say we're definitely past the first 50% of our first sinusoid, and we're on to like the second stage. And so this is the other half of the MakerDAO system that we have not yet explored, is what happens to Dai and CDP behavior in a super bull market.
So the thing that everyone needs to do is like contextualize the stability fee, right? Given what are the lending rates for ETH on centralized exchanges, and I think from what I've seen is they're pretty high. I think someone posted in general the other day that Bitfinex was charging 2.7% per day on that day that ETH just kind of took a rip up. And in that sense, the stability fees are still pretty low. Right. So the stability fee is just a percentage of, do you think 1 year from now ETH will be, higher than what the stability fee is going to be, right? Over what the expected stability fee will be over that term. And I'd say, if anything, the stability fee should be even higher than the rates going on centralized exchanges, exactly because it doesn't have the counterparty risk. So if people are looking at comparing Maker's rates with other people's rates, I think Maker will always kind of be this this boogeyman to pick on, saying like, oh, they have a higher rate, they have a higher rate, they have a higher rate. If we have the cheapest rate, then we'll just have oversaturated supply.
Right.
That's how that will work.
I think
It's
also,
such a
yeah, go for it, David.
the big criticism of MakerDAO, and I think actually the big mistake that the MakerDAO governance did was produce a stability fee of half a percent to begin precedent of like what a stability fee is. I mean, I don't feel too strongly about that, but like that was the context where like you can only increase the stability fee to a substantial degree when you start at 0.5%. So going from 0.5% to 14.5% is like, what like 30 times as high. And so
Yeah.
again, like when people are comparing it to traditional loans with like a credit card is at like what 24% on average. Like first off, comparing it to legacy rates is just not helpful because it's an entirely new system. But like this is on the flip side of things, like this is where MKR cashes in, right? Like this is where the MKR token really gets burned to a super high degree. And so like when it was 0.5%, MKR was going to be burning like $0.8 million a year. And with a market cap of $600 million, that's just absurd. Like $0.8 million of revenue a year with a $600 million market cap is insane. But now we're up to $10 million a year. And it looks like that's going to go even higher. And so like this on the other, like I said, with the sinusoid, like this is where the MKR token really actually captures its value and starts to bring in revenue. And so I think we're gonna see this pattern in the future of like MKR and Dai going for scale in bear markets, but then also then turning profit in bull markets, as you would expect, like any tech startup, right? Like all these tech startups follow the same pattern of operating at a loss for a while and then turning things around and starting to capture that value later.
Especially when the secondary product is leverage, right? So like if people were opening CDPs for, other reasons, right? Or Dai was being used largely for other reasons, if there was more of a balance in the use cases, right, you might not see such a volatile stability fee. But yeah, that's an interesting kind of dichotomy there: the bull versus the bear, the scale versus the profits.
The other thing I was thinking about is, and Jordan, this kind of speaks to your point. Like 0.5% loan is super magical, and I was really captured by that argument as well. The other magical thing is that we might get to a 20, 25, 30% stability fee, and then I bet you Dai demand or Dai supply doesn't really get impacted. And so like when people are fudding Maker about, oh, your stability fee is so high, like it's so easy to go back and say like, well, that's because the demand for Dai is so strong that it's not, the total supply is not going down. Like the stability fees went from 0.5% to almost 15%, and we lost like 5% of supply. Like it's because everyone wants our product.
Or everybody wants leverage, right?
Which
The whole
which
thing is
a
not
product.
enough people want Dai. A lot of people just want leverage. That's the
true.
real
That is
sort
true.
of mismatch.
That is true.
But yeah, all right, cool. I'd love to hear. Oh yeah, so so I just to read Jordan's comment in the chat for the people that'll be listening to this after the call. Jordan wrote, "True. When I first started diving in, the fee was 0.5%. It was truly magical internet money to me. Now with all of the hikes, even though I understand more or less why, it seems less and less magical over time." And yeah, and it just goes to show that it's really the market that sets the rate, because at 0.5%, the Dai peg was fine, and there was no reason to really change it. And then, there was that brief period where it did need to be changed, and then it actually got upped, and people were like, "What? You upped it to 2.5%? That's 5 times the original stability fee," and they were really upset. But it wasn't upped because of profit motive. It was upped because to maintain the health of the peg, and it seemingly had some effect, because shortly after that, the fee was decreased back down to 0.5%, and that's already, and then this whole situation happened where we started doing I think, what was it? We started with 0.5% increments up, yeah, and that lasted for like 2 votes before we realized it literally does nothing. And then we started ramping up. Maker governance started ramping up like more higher kind of increases. But yeah. So again, the question was like, how have you personally responded to the rate hikes? And if you guys don't have any more input, I do. Yeah, I'm just gonna give it a minute to see if anybody else wants to speak on that. All right, yeah. So besides that, I also had I also have kind of a short presentation from one of our community members, Reuptaken, Marson. I think he's in this call. He's going to talk a bit about efforts for like localization of content, and so actually, yeah, Marson, come on, introduce yourself. Man.
Hi guys, girls. I'm Marcin. I'm from Poland and spent most of my life now on the MakerDAO chat. So I was thinking how to bridge the MakerDAO to more people, to be more inclusive, and I'm thinking that localizing some content is a very important things to do, as we are dealing with some pretty complex matter, and these things are not easily comprehensible by English speakers. So I started with doing these video tutorials to MakerDAO systems, but what makes them unique, it is that those tutorials are kind of translation ready from the beginning, so they are prepared to be translated in various languages, which may be very different in terms of speaking pace and so on. So it's hard to translate. You don't have to do dubbing like in cinema, matching every sentence. It's better to provide your own translation without these constraints. Then, in process of conversation with David, with Rich, I was asked to prepare some proposals for translating FAQ documents into several languages. And what I would like to do is to engage community in this process as much as I can, because I think that there is many people from different, let's say, language backgrounds, speakers of various languages, and I think that this is a good way to make them engage in the community if they are not coders, they are not risk managers, and that's why first step which I did was to create some proposal how to deal with this, and I put the link here. And if anyone wants to comment on this, I would encourage you to do just that in our Maker chat. We have this community development channel, which is not the most popular. I think it should be a bit more popular. So please give your feedback. To present this idea very short time, I would like to ask community to do the translation. I think we have some budget for this, so there will be some Dai to be earned. I think it's better to if our community members would earn some extra money than to spend it on external translation services. Yeah, so that's basically it. Because I had this, I tried to translate my tutorial with some community members, and I think that we have to be more concrete on what are the terms, what we expect, what are the deadlines, and so on.
Yeah, thank you, Marcin. Thank you. Also, I
Yeah.
forgot to mention this week, another thing that came out was the Spanish version of the CDP and ETH to DAI tutorial. So that was thank you to Mariano DP who connected us with, who connected Marcin with, what's his name, Marcin?
Marcin. Yeah, it's Marcin.
Marcin. No, I'm saying the guy who
Yeah.
did the voiceover for the Spanish tutorial.
Yeah,
Was it Lorenzo? Or what was
yeah,
his name?
Luis. This was
Luis.
a guy from Venezuela. He had to cope with energy, problems with energy. So it's pretty hard, but he
Yeah.
managed to do the translation. So this is like totally global initiative to engage these communities from different backgrounds. And
Yeah, and actually tying into like this whole thing, I know I've been speaking to Kathleen, our community, and do also our and Chow, our community managers in Korea, China, and Japan, and all three of them kind of voiced the same concerns that there's like this whole group of the community that is not bilingual, that doesn't natively speak in English, that they also kind of have their concerns, like with these fee hikes, with learning about the
yeah.
system. There's kind of friction for a big part of the community. So if anybody here is bilingual and wants to make a little bit of a side project for themselves, we invite you guys to come to the community development channel and pitch in. Yeah.
And
So
I just want to add that this situation is like not black and white. So there are people who have some command of English, but they will still prefer to learn new hard things in their native language, even if they can understand English. It's much easier. to learn in native language. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm doing this.
Cool. Yeah, awesome.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for speaking on it, Marcin. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, if anybody has anything, yeah, come to the community development chat. Either ping me directly or ping Marcin. His handle on our Rocket chat is reuptaken. You'll see him all over the chats. He's super active. So definitely hit us up. And besides that, before I open it up kind of to the final questions, sort of like open-endedly to you guys, I wanted also to mention that this week I'm going to be putting on, hopefully today or tomorrow, I'm going to be putting up a thread on the MakerDAO subreddit, just for gathering ideas for the community call and kind of listing my own. So some of the ideas that I already had, uh, and I'm going to outline all of this in the post, but things like themes, things like live sort of tutorials, uh, things like inviting people with like threads that are kind of popular on Reddit to come and talk about those threads. Uh, and really, yeah, I mean, I made a whole list. I'm kind of failing at getting these ideas off the top of my head to you guys, but yeah, I'm gonna post something on Reddit, and I'd love some feedback from you guys. But without further ado, there's about 7 minutes left on the call, so I'd love to hear questions from you guys. If there's something that you want covered or spoken about, definitely chime in. And if there's no questions in the next like minute, yeah, we can conclude the call a little bit early.
Well, actually, David, I got a quick question.
Sure, Frank. What's up?
So I was reading on CoinDesk that Civic recently partnered up with Gemini's stablecoin.
Hmm?
And so I was wondering what exactly the community is doing to. Do you guys have like a desk that just focuses on getting
Integration,
deals?
like
Yeah.
deals, yeah. So I could speak to that, and I don't know. Is that the entire question? Do you want to finish the question? My bad.
No, yeah, just like what are you guys doing to get the? I mean, I've read on Maker Chat, somebody said that there's no rush to get advertisement for Dai until it can be proven that the mechanism design is sound, and of course it's pegged to the dollar. But what exactly is being done right now? I mean,
Yeah,
in
sure.
small components, I guess.
Yeah, sure. So we do have a business development team. So like I mentioned Gustav earlier in the call, he's our BD lead in Europe. We have guys like Mariano, Nadia in South America working on partnerships down there. And then in the States, we have like Greg DePisco, and we have a handful of people on the BD side. And like if you've been following Maker, like we have been announcing partnerships kind of left and right over the last year. And I think to speak to the point about advertising Dai specifically, I think the problem with that is that there wouldn't be a lot of ROI because there's not enough people accepting Dai on a consumer level. So like we have I think over 215 integration partners like as of now, uh, which sounds like a lot, but in reality, for like a kind of global cash system, it really isn't because there aren't solutions yet where like you can walk into any coffee shop in Brooklyn, where I'm at, to pay for Dai. So I think advertising Dai is I think from the perspective of our marketing team, and I'm totally speculating, like this is just like what I personally think is the position. Uh, it's really that it's too early for that. And also, there's the other point that multi-collateral Dai isn't out yet, and that we are still kind of experimenting with single collateral Dai, and that could be seen in the whole peg situation currently. So I think it's a bit about managing risk and also creating strategic sort of partnerships. Uh, and yeah, we're actively at work at that, just like I expect most crypto projects to be if they're worth their salt.
Sounds good. Thank you, David.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the question.
I've got a quick question, David.
Yeah, sure, Jordan. What's up?
So realistically, how close do you think the peg can actually be?
So I think that question can be answered like with like a range, because I think before the new year, I'd say maybe like around New Year's and earlier, uh, the peg was trading, below and above $1 like pretty regularly. But the whole thing is, it was like trading in the range. It was regularly below by a little bit, and it was regularly above by a little bit, and it was hitting the dollar very often. And like the current predicament is that it's been below $1 like the vast majority of the time. So it hasn't been going back up. And so I think to answer that question, like what is a healthy range? It's actually the second time I got this question today. Uh, Shooting from the hip, I'd say probably like 98 cents to $1.01, which is like plus minus like 1 to 2% on both sides of the USD exchange rate. But the whole thing is, it's being able to give market participants the chance to see Dai at $1. And I think like the biggest group of system participants that feel the pain are probably market makers. So market makers that make markets on Dai currently are struggling with like having way too much Dai that they can't unload, and they can't unload it because the market just hasn't been going back up to $1 very often. And interestingly enough, that actually might also contribute to the lag in the peg, because any demand for Dai might be getting soaked up by market makers trying to offload their Dai. So that's actually to the point of why market maker inventory levels are important. But yeah, I hope that answers the question a bit.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right, cool. So without further ado, thank you guys for coming on the call. Really appreciate your participation. And again, look out for the thread this week. I'd love to hear your ideas, even guest ideas, if you guys want to refer people to me, or if you're personally passionate about talking about something or presenting something. Hit me up. I'm always up for making this call more engaging for you guys. So thank you guys for coming, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.